I hope that you have had the time to visit the website. I've just uploaded the couple of hours back actually, uploaded the new sutta that we are going to be discussing today. Apologies if I was a bit late, my bad. And so we will be discussing the Karajakāya Brahmavihara Sutta today, right? The Karajakāya Brahmavihara Sutta today. So this sutta is a part of the Anguttara Nikaya. It is not a long sutta. It is a sort of admonition, a discussion between the bhikkhus and the Buddha. But although this sutta might not be one of the main sort of suttas which is expounded, I think in terms of the journey that we have been on, if we look at the sutras we've been discussing before this, or in the initial start of the class, we've been touching on sutras with a great depth of the meditation subjects, with great depth towards or into the aggregates, the skandhas we call it. We've discussed the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Noble Path. We've sort of gone, rather not gone, but maybe touched on a number of subjects with regards to anicca dukkha anatma, impermanent suffering in non-self. We've delved into a bit, again, touched on dependent origination, paticcasamuppada. And now with the practice as we go forward, it would be very important for us to also pay attention to the little things that we might call it sometimes, right? The little things, but these little things end up to great things in the long run. Also becomes foundation pillars and foundation and the foundation to the practice that we try to pursue, right? The practice that we try to pursue. So today I have chosen a sutta that is regarding the four Brahmaviharas, right? The four Brahmaviharas, and also goes into the law of karma and how the law of karma comes into effect with regards to when we work towards the attainment of Nibbana, right? Which for a Buddhist, or according to the Buddha's teachings, is the ultimate goal of the Buddha's teachings. So I presume that because of my delay, most of you might have not had the time to read through the sutta. So we will read through the sutta. So if I may ask one of you, so if you turn to page number 75 on the handout, or rather flip your screen to page number 75. Just give me a thumbs up when you're there. All right, I think you're there. So now, Karajakāya Brahmavihara Sutta. The deed-born body discourse. Bhikkhus, I do not say that there is an ending of intentional deeds done and piled up. Having experienced them, whether right here in the present or in the next life, or in another life. Yet, bhikkhus, I do not say that there is an ending of suffering. Through having experienced intentional deeds done and piled up, right? Now, what does this mean? Now, for those of you who are also following the Abhidhamma class, right, this has a great relation to the rootless vipakas or the resultants, as well as the other resultants that we have discussed in the sensual sphere plane, right, in the sensual sphere plane. Now, what is this talking about, or what is this about? Now, as we have journeyed through samsara, with every deed that we have done verbally, physically, and mentally, right? All of these energies that are created seems to condition what we go through, not fully, not 100%, but to a great extent condition the ways that we behave, think, feel, our perceptions, our notions, all of these things, right? That is what makes us unique as a human being. Now, this karma, these energies that we have, these energies that we have created, or these energies that we have produced, it is said that when we produce these energies might sometimes, if it is an unwholesome resultant, what we refer to in Pali as akusala vipaka, we would have to go through the burden of going through those karmas or experiencing those karmas, right? Experiencing those karmas. So when in the sutta, it is said, now the Buddha starts off by saying, I do not say that there is an ending of intentional deeds done and piled up, having experienced them. This simply means one cannot exhaust one's karma, right? One cannot exhaust one's karma by just going through them, because you might exhaust some, but there is a whole barrage, a whole line of karmas waiting for us all. We have, because that is the amount of time and the amount of energies that we have produced or accumulated rather during our journey in samsara, right? During our journey in samsara. Now, there is the inception of the Sanchetanika Sutta, wholesome courses of conduct. Bhikkhus, threefold are the defiling faults of bodily action, verbal action, and mental action, right? With painful outcome, painful results. Painful outcome and painful results, meaning if one does something which is unwholesome, the law of karma is the results of that would also be unwholesome. It is sometimes, even within Buddhists, sometimes we sort of imagine. There was actually a fellow student of ours who reached out to me, and she was like, Bhante, where is this karma? How on what does it depend? Where is it? How are we carrying this forward? It is important to understand that karma is an energy, and the karma nyaya, or the law of karma, has been designated as one of those subjects that the Buddha has said to be baffling to the mind, right? Baffling to the mind because of the lack of ability within a mundane person to conceive the arising or the reasons behind the arising and the passing away of these said karmas, right? Of these said karmas. So this karma nyaya, there it is not Mother Nature, if we might call, nature by mother, when we say Mother Nature, I think Mother Nature is a word that we sort of refer to in a very Western sense, but moreover now in Buddhist texts, we would refer to Mother Nature as the niyamas, the laws, right? Bij niyama, uttu niyama, likewise, the law of the seedling, the law of nature. In this way, it is not a part of the law of nature but it is a way that this energy connects to the mind and has this effect upon the mind. Now, for example, if we are to ask ourselves, right? If we are to ask ourselves, I read a Facebook post even today, an article which was posted on Facebook, where a young toddler, right, began to sort of speak of his adventures of the past to the father, right? A very, very young toddler had started to speak of his um, experiences of the past to his father, his many adventures that he's been on, right? Now, even in that way, the brain is gone from the past life. Yet the memory of the past life somehow seems to exist even within a newborn. Even when we sort of meditate and do practices such as when we are able to see past lives, we are able to tap into this, right? This seems to operate at a metaphysical level where this energy, this connection of energy seems to be within us. Also, even when we feel, we are able to feel these things even in our personality traits. Sometimes you've had the best upbringing, the most respectful parents, the most respectful friends, all of those ticks are there in your life. Ticks are there in your life, but you have a uproaring anger that you do not know where it comes from, right? You have something and you have nothing to point it towards. Your parents have been just amazing to you, right? And these things we find that could be connected to our past lives and past experiences, and these perceptions have some sort of root from the past lives that we've experienced and gone through. So these threefold action, bodily, verbal, and mental actions are the three types of actions that create these new karmas, regardless of whether it is wholesome or unwholesome. Unwholesome bodily action, and how bhikkhus are the defiling force of the body due to unwholesome volition, with painful outcome, painful result, threefold. Here, bhikkhu is a certain person. Now we are discussing, now we are going into what are the wrong, unwholesome bodily actions, which is here mentioned, killing a living being, the first precept, right? Killing a living being. The second precept, taking or stealing, right? Stealing, taking what is not yours, taking what is not given, right, is a more dignified way to put it. But sometimes when we say taking what is not given, sometimes we can take things with trust, right? We can take things with trust. Now, for example, if you are to visit your parents' houses or your siblings' houses, sometimes we are not going to ask each and everything. You're not going to open the fridge and ask if you can drink some milk or something. You just drink it because you're family, right? Now, for it to be stealing, I have mentioned before, it specifically has to be the volition to steal or the chetana to steal. We call this the Theya Chitta, right? The Theya Chitta. If we go a little bit more deeper, bringing in the Vinaya Pitaka into our study as well, the Buddha said, okay, does the Theya Chitta itself or the volition to steal itself create the karma? No, right? No, of course, there is an energy created by the Theya Chitta, but this volition will not be able to hinder or affect our rebirth consciousness or the next birth that we are going to have. What needs to be done is, it's called Thana Chavaya. Thana Chavaya is, Thana is the place. Now, for example, if it is this water bottle, you need, with the volition to steal, be moving the bottle from its place, right? Removing the bottle from its place or removing the object. That removal of objects from its place has to happen, right? Has to happen in the basic law of this action of stealing happening. Then we have the third precept, which is sexual misconduct, right? Which is sexual misconduct. Now, sexual misconduct is a rather complicated, I would say, maybe it's not complicated, but there is a lot of detail that the Buddha has gone to or into defining what um, sexual misconduct it is. That's a whole lesson altogether, right? It's a whole lesson altogether. But simply, sexual misconduct would be, or the third precept would be, transgressed if you are to go to a person who is not, if you are married and you are to go to a person who is not your husband or your wife or your partner, someone that you have an agreement with, right? Someone that you have an agreement with. And now, in today's times, we know that many people have opted not to get married, but they live their life committed to one another as partners. Now, even partners would belong, or even if you have not got married, but just a partner, you would entail this, right? You would entail this, transgress this precept if one is to go to another person who is not one's partner, or the person that you're sharing a marital relationship with, right? Now, these are the ways that you incur bodily misconduct. What are the verbal misconduct? Now, verbal misconduct, coming down next page, right? Unwholesome verbal action. And how bhikkhus are the defiling faults of verbal action due to unwholesome volition, with painful outcome, painful results fourfold, right? Here, bhikkhus, a certain person speaks falsehood when questioned as a witness before a council, before a congregation, in the midst of relatives, in the midst of a guild, in the midst of royal court, and questions, sir, tell us what you know. Not knowing, he says he knows, or knowing, he says he knows not. Having not seen, he says he saw. Having seen, he says he did not see. Consciously lying thus for his own sake, for the sake of others, or for some small material gain. Now, it is important to understand, now when it comes to lying or speaking falsehood, we have this notion of white lies and black lies, right? White lies and black lies. It is a fun twist to our practice. Now, white lies and black lies, I would have to say, but both these, because white and black both belong to the category of lies. Why? Because lies are musavadena chinteti, which is the volition to deceive. If you are to speak in any way with the volition to deceive, it is a lie, right? It is a lie. Now, I do understand, as a person, I consider myself down to earth and most connected to the world. As such, we understand that there are certain occasions that a lie, the truth would be more hurtful and damaging than a lie, right? Here, and I think we all can relate to that, right? Sometimes telling the truth can be somewhat damaging to a relationship, to a family, right? The Buddha, in this regard, what his advice is, live your life in a way that you can be proud of, in a way that you can speak of it in the most prestigious of courts, right? Now, that is a Buddha's admonition with regards to do not create an instance where you have to lie, right? Now, this is also like a protective dharma, right? A protective dharma where you do not do anything. This is a way of guarding and safeguarding yourself and the relationship that you have with your loved ones. There was one of my teachers, her teacher, in Dhamma school, used to always tell her, do things that the Buddhas would say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu to. Right now, this was an advice that she used to grow up to, and I think you understand the word sadhu. Sadhu is a way of saying, very good, or very. It is a way of sort of commending an action or commending a deed, right? Sadhu, and she grew up with this, right? She grew up with this. Now, it is very important to understand lies is very much looked down upon within the teachings of the Buddha. It is said the Buddha, during his time of practice, transgressed every other rule, from killing to stealing to from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct to alcoholism, all of that, right? All the rest, except lying, And it is said it is because of that. Now, even 2,600 years after, now let us say someone in this, now let us say me, if I am to speak of the Dhamma in a way that it disrespects the Dhamma, however much you all might be, you might like me and you might have followed me, you will feel a sense of disregard towards me, isn't it? Right? Now, that is because it is said, the Buddha says, not me, the Buddha says, that is because the words that the Buddha has spoken in his time of practice have only been true. As a karmic result, the words that the Buddha utters are taken with highest regard and respect by everyone, Buddhist, non-Buddhist, right? It would be respected, right? You see how much of quotes are sort of circulating on WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram, all with regard to the Buddha's teachings, and people really like these things, like this. And even if there was an occasion where the Buddha asked, if I am to ask my disciples to jump into a pool of mud, right? Do you think, it is actually addressed to Uday. He asked, Uday, do you think they will do it? Uday says, oh yes, Bhante, if you say they will jump into a pool of mud also, right? Thinking that this will lead them to liberation, right? Then the Buddha asked, then why, Uday, why in the world are you not following my teachings? It is quite, this is, these are the things when you read through, you understand this is the humor of the Buddha, right? I guess sometimes we do the same thing with children, isn't it? You guys who have children, you do this with your kids as well. This is the humor of the Buddha, right? So the Buddha, in that way, the Buddha was so well received because of his practice of not lying, right? You might find yourself sometimes, all what you say, it's true, right? The way you say it is also kind and compassionate, but no one listens to you, not even your doggy at home. Right? Not even your doggy at home listens to you, right? Now, this the Buddha says in the Mahalakkana Sutta. Later on in the Mahapadana Sutta, the Buddha explains why this is. The Buddha says, use these as signs. If you feel that people do not give ear to you, it is probably because you have lied in the past. Right? You have lied in the past. I have also noticed an observation of mine has been when, these people who are, you meet these people who are foul-mouthed, not in a way that they curse and all of that, in a way that they use their words to break people, to break relationships, to create disturbances and damage, right? You find that their mouth odors are very bad, right? Sometimes so bad you cannot travel in a car with them, right? Travel in a car with them is so bad. You use mouthwash, you can put glycerine in your mouth, it will never go. Right? This is, I've realized, and it is very specific to these kinds of people who live immoral lives. And the Buddha says the same. The Buddha says, it is said that the Buddha's, the smell of the Buddha's breath, right, is of like a nilmanel, like a blue lotus. I don't know, blue lotus is not the name for nilmanel, but I think the purple lotuses, right, which smells quite, pleasant. And that is because of kind words. The Buddha in that way says, if you find that you are healthy, you have no problem, but you have this foul breath, that is a sign that you are either practicing foul mouth speech now or in your past births. So the Buddha says, use these as signs to better your practice and to progress your own qualities, right? So let us move. Then you have first, speaks falsehood, lying. Also something that I have to add is there is something called I can't pronounce it. Yes, Veera, you that's not the word. Yeah, hold on, Veera. Let me unmute your mic and enlighten our friends here. Yeah.
Sammapralapa.
Samyaprayoga.
Samyaprayoga. Okay, Samyaprayoga. Thank you. So Samyaprayoga, right? It's called Samyaprayoga. But my personal, now, Samyaprayoga was actually taught to me by a very esteemed Aranya monk when I was a lay person. Lying left, right, and center to my mother to get her to excuse me to go to meditation centers. I was lying to her left, right, and center, right? So my teacher told this to a monk, and he taught me Samyak Prayoga, right? But something that he also added is, don't get used to using it, because then it becomes a very elusive way of speech. Right? An elusive way of speech. You only use Samya Prayoga to really avoid a problem. Right? For example, the usage of Samya Prayoga is like this. Now, for example, there was a prince who was going to get murdered by his brothers, right? And he ran to the monastery and he hid under the monk's bed, right? Hid under the something seems to never change. Right? Something seems to never change, because you find even now ministers hiding under monks' beds sometimes, right? And to save themselves, right? Now in that way, the brothers come and they ask the monk, did you see this person? And the monk said, he is not here, and he taps onto the mattress of the bed, right? Signaling that so what the monk's intention was, he is not on the mattress, but he is under the mattress, under the bed. He is under the mattress, under the bed, right? But he taps on the bed and says, he is not here, right? He is not here. In a similar situation, the villagers are chasing after a prostitute, a social escort, and she was running away from them, and she passes a monastery, and a monk was standing at the gate, if we may say, and then the villagers asked the monk, did you see a woman running from here? And he pointed into the monastery and said, no, he pointed in the opposite direction of where the woman went. So if she went right, he pointed to the left and said, she did not go this way, right? She did not go this way, pointed to the left in that way. Now that is elusive, sort of speaking, the absolute truth, right? Speaking of the absolute truth, right? That is not regarded as falsehood, right? But remember, if you do it with the volition to deceive, there it becomes falsehood. So it all depends on the volition that you have, right? Then we have delusive speech, right? What he has heard, he repeats to he repeated there to divide them, right? To divide and break people. Our speech in no way. And then we have harsh words, right? Harsh words which hurts others. And we have frivolous chatter, right? We find, I think those of you who have gone through a time of practice, right? You find that when you engage with these people who talk, frivolous things and talk about other people, you find yourself in difficult situations surely in the future, right? Just being a part of such conversations too. It also creates some sort of instability in yourself. So it is very important, the company that we keep is very important to how the mind behaves and manifests itself as well. And then we go down to unwholesome mental action. What is that? Covetousness, right? He covets the possessions of others that are of service to them, thinking, oh, may what belongs to others become mine, right? Covetousness. And then you have one with a mind of ill will, right? With a mind, wicked thoughts. And then you have wrong view. There is no giving, no offering, no sacrifice, right? Distorted visions regarding patterns of practice, patterns of life, which you take up as views or ditti, micha ditti, right? So in this way, we have bodily, verbal, and mental actions, right? Now, these actions, something that you will understand to a greater depth is, these actions are referred to as limiting karmas, right? Why is it referred to as limiting karmas? Because these karmas in one way limits the mind's potential to excel, right? To excel where? Excel beyond the plane that it belongs in. What is the plane that lust, hatred, ill will, covetousness, sexual misconduct, all of these wrong that we have gone through belongs within the realm of sensual desire. These are things that we do to cling on to hang on to, the conceit by which we hold on to sensual pleasures, and all of that we sort of pleasurizes the body. And sometimes with the delusion in mind, the things that we chase are also not things that brings us pleasure, right? Meaning sometimes people take comfort in being sad. People take comfort in feeling sort of hate, because for them it sometimes feel like something rather than the light feeling, because they have not experienced the light feelings of good, right? Of good, right? For example, we speak about, it's called I can't remember what it's called, but this is what happens. For example, let us say a woman, let's take an example of a woman who has been assaulted or raped, right? Or raped. Now, we find that sometimes it becomes easier to hate all men than just hating one man, right? This is the way we know. For example, you have not a loaf, a slice of bread, right? A slice of bread, and you put a blob of butter on it, right? Now, when you look at the blob of butter, it looks like a lot. So what do you do to make yourself, it is actually a lot, right? What do you do to make yourself feel better? You spread it. Now you're on a diet, right? Now you're on a diet because it looks like a very thin layer of butter. Now you feel good. Right? Same with jam, same with conserves, same with all preserves, and all of these things. We spread it. Now it's not a lot, right? In that way, we make ourselves feel better because we rather not focus on the reality of the situation. In that way, all of these situations or unwholesome mental sort of practices leads to a certain degree of delusion arising in our minds, which sort of curtails the fullest potential of the mind, which keeps us then stuck into or onto the sensual plane. That is why it refers to a limiting karma, right? A limiting karma. Now, going down, right? Going down, going down, going down. Now, all the way down to page number 80, right? All the way down to page number 80. Right. So, the benefits of the divine abodes, the cultivation of loving kindness. But bhikkhus, that noble disciple, thus free from covetousness, free from ill will, free, unconfused, clearly aware, ever mindful, dwells pervading one quarter with a mind filled with loving kindness. Likewise, the second quarter, likewise, the third quarter, likewise, the fourth quarter. Thus, above, below, in between, everywhere, and to everyone as well as to himself, he dwells pervading the whole world with loving kindness that is bountiful, grown, great, boundless, without hate, without ill will. Right? Without hate, without ill will. In this way, now what are the four quarters? The four quarters can be in terms of direction, north, south, east, west, or it can also be, remember I've spoken of the four persons. The first is a respected person. The second is a friend, a beloved friend. The third is an unknown person, and the fourth is an enemy or a person who does you harm, right? The four quarters in this way can be both direction or can also refer to these four persons, right? Now, in the practice of loving kindness, right? In the practice of loving kindness, let us go on and read on, then we will go on to explain, right? What do you think, bhikkhus? If a young man from his boyhood onwards were to develop the freedom of mind by loving kindness, would he then do a bad deed? Certainly not, Bhante. And not doing a bad deed, would suffering touch him? Certainly not, Bhante. How could suffering touch one who does no bad deed? Indeed, bhikkhus, the freedom of mind by loving kindness should be developed by a woman or man. Whether you are a woman or man, you cannot take his body along when you depart. Bhikkhus, the mortal life is but an intermediate state of consciousness. He knows thus, whatever bad deed I've done before, with this deed-born body, their result will be experienced here and they will not follow me. Loving kindness is, if developed in such a way, will lead to the state of non-returning in the case of a monk who is established in the wisdom found here, but who has not attained to a higher freedom. Now, when we say loving kindness, right? Metta, right? Metta. This metta or loving kindness is the intention of goodwill. The intention of goodwill and the wish for the welfare and the happiness of beings. Now that is very important to remember. Because sometimes when we do metta, we actually have metta, mudita, karuna all in one, right? Loving kindness, sympathetic joy, compassion seems to all be one. Now, even in my sessions that I do, You can find metta, loving kindness, compassion, and sympathetic joy in the verses that I recite for you, right? That I recite for you. But if you're in, now as if you, to know what clearly metta is, it is important to understand what metta truly, or what the element of metta is. So metta is the intention of goodwill, wishing the best, the welfare of another person, right? And what attacks metta is directly attachment and greed, right? The near enemy of metta is attachment or greed. Now, this is a reason why when it comes to loving kindness practices, we say, or it is said, not to practice loving kindness first to a person that you absolutely love, right? Because it has a tendency to turn into lust, raga, which we call raga or lust, right? That's which can easily happen because of the attachment base that we have in metta, right? So usually for a serious practitioner, what we say or what we try to focus on as a script is a thought of well-being, wellness, or welfare, wholesomeness towards another person, and we are instigated to start with a person that we respect, right? That we respect. Whilst the near enemy of loving kindness is attachment and greed, the far enemy is ill will and hatred, right? Ill will and hatred. Ill will and hatred, although not connected to metta straight away, it destroys metta. It absolutely puts metta in shambles because it directly affects that mentality of loving kindness, right? Of loving kindness. Now, this metta is the appreciation, or an appreciation for things as they are. An appreciation for things, for a person as they are, a sense of loving kindness, no reason to change, nothing at all. It's not like, okay, if my husband did not talk too much, let him be, not anything like that, right? It is without any condition whatsoever. You are radiating loving kindness and these thoughts of well-being. There is no take. It's a only give practice, right? It is only a give practice, not a take practice. But in radiating loving kindness and metta, there is a very powerful effect of the four Brahmaviharas, especially something like metta, when it comes to the attachment that we have to the Pancha Upadana Skandha, the 5 aggregates of clinging. Remember, the near enemy of metta is attachment and greed. And what does attachment and greed form the base of? It forms the base of the reason that we are stuck in this samsara and have been stuck in samsara for the many countless eons that we have continued in this journey in samsara. It is attachment. This counter force of metta, sort of puts the attachment that we have to ourselves to a numb-like state, where it disengages the attachment with the 5 aggregates of clinging, or the 5 aggregates rather. This allows for the development of wisdom with much more clarity and awareness. Now, for example, let us think. Now, we have all met that person who does not want to hear about death. We have all met that person who cannot bear to hear about the reality of the impermanence of life, right? We have heard of the person, we have met and we know people who do not want to talk about any bad omens, right? This is the attachment that we have towards comfort, the attachment that we have towards what we recognize as the comfort of our life. The Buddha says that in this regard, if one is to keep one's mind with this sort of thought or pattern of thinking, one will surely have a very bad, uncomfortable death. Why is that? Because we have not been trained in reality. So when we see the uncertainty of the darkness, the unknown that we are going to face during our last moments, we become very restless. We become very fearful of what is to come because we don't know what is to come, right? This metta creates, it is said, as a result of metta, one does not fear death. And because one does not fear death, one does not end up in the woeful realms. Woeful realm that comes with the metta that you have in your heart, in your mind, right? Metta is an absolutely integral part, an important practice in the Dhamma, because it allows the flexibility required of the mind to start its process, to start its work upon the mind, right? Upon the mind. Then we have the moving down, we have the cultivation of compassion. Veera, can you read that, please? Do you have that with you? You can't unmute the mic. Okay, Veera. Your mic is unmuted, but the sound is not there. Okay, Dil, can you read it, please? Do you have it with you?
Yeah, I have it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
The cultivation of compassion. He dwells, pervading one quarter with a mind filled with compassion. Likewise, the second quarter. Likewise, the third quarter. Likewise, the fourth quarter. Thus, above, below, in between, everywhere and to everyone, as well as to himself, he dwells, pervading the whole world with compassion that is bountiful, grown great, boundless, without hate, without ill will. He knows, formerly my mind was limited and undeveloped, but now my mind is boundless and well developed. Any karma done in a limited way neither remains nor persists here. What do you think, bhikkhus? If a young man from his boyhood onwards were to develop the freedom of mind by compassion, would he then do a bad deed? Certainly not, Bhante. And not doing any bad deed, would suffering touch him? Certainly not, Bhante. How could suffering touch one who does no bad deed? Indeed, because the freedom of mind by compassion should be developed by a woman or a man. Whether you are a woman or a man, you cannot take this body along when you depart from this world. Because this mortal life is but an intermediate state of consciousness.
All right, thank you, Dil.
No, don't. Oshani.
All right. Now, okay, so what is mudita, right? What is mudita? I'm sorry, karuna, compassion. Now, karuna is the wish to alleviate suffering, right? The wish to alleviate suffering. Now, when it comes to metta, you I think you will remember scripts such as, may you be free from danger and harm. Now that is metta. May you be happy, free from mental distress. May you be healthy, free from illness and pain. May you live with ease. Now that is metta, right? Then karuna is, or compassion is, may you be free of suffering. May you be at peace, right? Now compassion is specifically to alleviate suffering, right? To alleviate suffering. Now that is a thought. Now if you are to bring in a thought of alleviating suffering into your metta practice, it is at that point a compassion practice, not a loving kindness practice. Now one may think, Bhante, why bother? Right? Why do we have to know all of these details? Isn't it good as it is, right? True. If you are doing your practice, if it doesn't do, if you're doing it in a way that is generalized, if you're doing it for sort of the wholesome mind, good. But when it comes to a jhana practice, it is very important to note the specific changes in mindset, right? The specific changes in mindset. Now, in the first, it was the intention of goodwill. The second was the need or the wish, not the need, that's the wrong word, the wish to alleviate someone's suffering, right? Intention of wishing happiness onto a person, right? That's the point. Wishing happiness for a person and to alleviate suffering. I think now you understand the difference, right? I would appreciate like a head wave if you do. Right? So it is the alleviation of suffering, which is karuna. Now, in compassion, we find that the near enemy of compassion, right? Now, when I say near enemy, what I mean is compassion can be easily mistaken for pity and grief, right? For pity and grief. Now, there was a talk by an eminent, not eminent, but rather a popular monk in Sri Lanka. He said, karuna is when you feel ane apoi for another person. Now, for those of you who do not know Sinhala, would not understand this, but so the English equivalent will be oh boy, or not oh boy, or something like that, isn't it? Or something like oh gosh, or some sort of feeling, some sort of pity. Now that is what he mentioned was exactly the near enemy. That is not compassion, right? Where you're thinking ane apoi for another person. That is not compassion. Compassion, remember that any of these emotions that you feel through the Brahmavihara practice must strengthen you. It is a very again, this word gambira, right? This word gambira, which I've again forgotten the English word for gambira. It is a very someone tell me the word for gambira, right? It is something that gives you sort of a feel of the upright nature. Majestic. Thank you, Chamari. Right? Majestic. It is a majestic practice, right? It is a practice that allows you to sort of to put your chest out, right? It is a practice that gives you confidence. It is a practice that enlightens you. It is not a practice that drags you down with another person's pain, right? It is not a practice that drags you down with another person's suffering or pain, right? It must energize. So it is not the feeling of pity or grief right? And the opposite of compassion is cruelty, right? I think when we say the opposite or the far enemy of compassion, when we say that, the cruelty, you understand compassion a little bit more, right? The opposite of cruelty is what compassion is, right? Now, compassion allows one or gives one the mental capacity to be able to tackle ignorance, Having compassion or practicing compassion allows one to tackle ignorance, one sort of nature where you keep the reality away from you, and also fear. By wishing wholeheartedly for the alleviation of suffering within another, one is armed with a sense of fearlessness, right? With a sense of courage to be able to face the unavoidable circumstances of the life that we live in, right? Circumstances that we live in. Now, coming down, right? Now, Manisha, we need your melodious voice, Manisha.
Oh, hello.
Manisha, do you have it with you, the handout?
Yes, I do. Which page?
Yes, page number 82, Manisha.
Yes, 82.
The cultivation of gladness.
He dwells, pervading one quarter with a mind filled with gladness. Likewise the second quarter, likewise the third quarter, likewise the fourth quarter. Thus above, below, in between, everywhere and to everyone, as well as to himself, he dwells, pervading the whole world with gladness, that is bountiful, grown great, boundless, without hate, without ill will. He knows formerly my mind was limited and undeveloped, but now my mind is boundless and well developed. Any karma done in a limited way neither remains nor persists here. What do you think, bhikkhus, if a young man from his boyhood onwards were to develop the freedom of mind by gladness, would he then do a bad deed? Certainly not, Bhante. And not doing any bad deed would suffering touch him. Certainly not, Bhante. How could suffering touch one who does no bad deed? Indeed, bhikkhus, the freedom of mind by gladness should be developed by woman or man. Whether you are a woman or a man, you cannot take this body along when you depart from this world. Bhikkhus, this moral life is but an intermediate state of consciousness. But the noble disciples knows, whatever bad deed I did before with this physical body, their result will be experienced here, and they will not follow me. Gladness, if developed in such a way, will lead to the state of non-returning. In the case of a monk who is established in the wisdom found here in this teaching, but who has not attained to a higher freedom.
Thank you, Manisha. Now, gladness, right? When it comes to gladness, what we would consider as a thought of gladness is, may your good fortune and success continue. May your good fortune and success continue. That is a type of thought or script that is or falls under what mudita or sympathetic joy or altruistic joy is, right? Where you are happy, or something like, may your happiness never come to an end, right? May your good health never come to something like that, where you are hoping for another person's success, good. It could also be good looks, right? Some people, you know, they age very gracefully, right? It could be some sort of quality that they have within themselves. It could be their good friendship, kalyana mitras that they have, or whatever it is, something that they have to prolong and persist, to continue. That is what being happy of another person's success or another person's blessings, right? That is what mudita is, right? Now, what is the near enemy, or what can mudita be mistaken for, right? Mudita is easily mistaken for the joy that you sometimes, you know, the joy that is sort of tingled by insincerity, right? When you're not sincere, right? When you're not sincere, right? Or personal identification. Now, what is personal identification, right? Sometimes we have mudita towards people because they seem to be like us, right? Like us, right? Now, for example, let's say wealth, right? Let's say wealth. She's wealthy, I'm wealthy. He's wealthy, I'm wealthy. My clan, right? Or let's say high caste, our clan. Right? Now, something of that sort. You sort of have this connection with a person because you consider them, somewhat you in, or has attributes that you have. Personal identification, right? Or this can also be sort of a overly flamboyant expression of joy, right? Now, just because you have to sort of, you know, sometimes you sort of gloat, and sort of not gloat, but rather you are excessive in terms of the way that you put people up on a high pedestal or something like that. Now, that is not mudita, right? Do not think when you're sort of pushing, you know, when you're sort of commending your useless boss's efforts, right? Just for that raise, that is mudita, that is mudita, that is not mudita. Right? That is not mudita. When you are just trying to sort of make another person happy, so you're sort of commending the person to high heavens, that is not mudita. Mudita is purely from a pure heart, with no relation or connection to you. With no relation or connection to you, right? This is again, in one way, all of these practices of the Brahmavihari switches tells you, you are not the middle of the universe, right? You are not the middle of the universe. You put other people before you, which allows you to shift that paradigm of the 5 aggregates of clinging to getting rid of the 5 aggregates, the clinging that you have to these 5 aggregates, right? The far enemy of mudita, or altruistic joy, or sympathetic joy, is envy, jealousy, and aversion. Envy, jealousy, and aversion, right? Mudita is also a practice which enables a person to counter boredom, right? To counter boredom, right? I mean, funny ways how these things work, don't you think? Right? In ways that you sometimes don't imagine. But mudita enables a person to counter, right, boredom. And also now, when we were probably younger, right, when we were younger, or maybe we are still doing this, or maybe we still have this habit arising from insecurity, where you consistently compare, right? You compare, this comparison that you have in your mind, even when sometimes you tell your children, oh, why are you like this? Your friend is not like this. Right? And your children really lose it, don't they, when you compare them to other people, right? They're like, why are you comparing? Right? Now, when you compare, now things like this, these are habitual tendencies, right? Which arises. Now, mudita tackles this, right? Mudita tackles this, right? And also gives you the ability. Now, when you have a lot, right? You have everything that you can ask for. You have no financial issues, or maybe you do have financial issues, but you have a lot of friends who support you and comfort you, or you might have not much friends, but you have an amazing partner, husband or wife or whoever it is, right? Now but we consistently think you do not have anything, or I don't have enough, right? Or you have worked so hard, you have had so much of success in what you've done, and the things that you have in your life reflects upon how successful you have been, right? And you have a good family, but still you have this internalized hatred, almost a feeling of thinking, I have not done much, I have not contributed much, right? Now that is also tackled, destroyed by mudita, because the more that you have this altruistic joy for other people's success, you are able to also note and give credit to your own success in a very pure manner, right? And it's a beautiful practice. It's an absolutely beautiful practice. And now, who wants to read the next part? The cultivation of equanimity. Samantha?
Oh, yes. Hi, Bhante. Thank you.
Hi. Yes, Samantha.
Yeah, sorry. The cultivation of equanimity. He dwells pervading one quarter with a mind filled with equanimity. Likewise, the second quarter, likewise, the third quarter, likewise, the fourth quarter. Thus, above, below, in between, everywhere, and to everyone, as well as to himself, he dwells pervading the whole world with equanimity, that is, bountiful, grown great, boundless, without hate, without ill will. He knows formerly my mind was limited and undeveloped, but now my mind is boundless and well developed. Any karma done in a limited way neither remains nor persists there. What do you think, bhikkhus? If a young man from his boyhood onwards were to develop the freedom of mind by equanimity, would he then do a bad deed? Certainly not, Bhante. And not doing any bad deed, would suffering touch him? Certainly not, Bhante. How could suffering touch one who does no bad deed? Indeed, bhikkhus, the freedom of mind by equanimity should be developed by a woman or a man, Whether you're a woman or a man, you cannot take this body along when you depart from this world. This mortal life, bhikkhus, is but an intermediate state of consciousness. But the noble disciple knows, whatever bad deed I've done before with this deed-born body, their result will be experienced here and they will not follow me. Equanimity, if developed in such a way, will lead to the state of non-returning in the case of a monk who is established in the wisdom found here in this teaching, but who has not attained to a higher freedom. Eva.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, with regard to this, now equanimity. right? Equanimity or upekha is usually found within the script of all beings are the heirs of their own actions, right? All beings are the heirs of their own actions. Their happiness and unhappiness depends upon their actions, not my wishes for them. Now, having a sense of equanimity, now that is something that we do not know, even within, I think, although sympathetic joy, altruistic joy, metta, mudita, karuna can be found in usual practices within the same practice, we do not find upekha in this practice because, right, we will see why. Because now upekha is seeing equality in beings, right? Now, what is this equality of beings? Now, the Buddha has, of course, mentioned we are here because of the attachment that we have to the five aggregates, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. We are made up of the five skandhas. We have, within our minds, we have the Nama and the Rupa, right? The Rupa being 28, the Nama being 121 or 89 and 52 Chetasikas. These make up our entire organism structure or our entire existence, right? In knowing this, the Buddha sort of breaks us up and says, look here. He says, look here. We are a compilation, a collection of all of these attributes. And when these attributes are divided into or dissected or taken apart, you will no longer exist. The things that you know as colors, you know because your teachers, your parents, your past has taught you those things. The way that you know how to dress, the way that you know how to feel, the way that you speak are things that you've collected along this life, right? These habits and all of these other things are things that we've picked up. What is then yours? Actually, if we just give it a moment, allow that to just sink in. What is actually yours? What is actually mine? I know how to speak. Who taught me how to speak? Right? Probably the places that I lived in, the places that I went to school in, the places, the people that I associated. These are all things that you picked up. What is yours? Nothing. Absolutely nothing, right? You have your children, you fed them, all right, right? The vegetables that you fed them have been made by another person because of that person's services. The money that you had to buy these things, yes, you perform services for them, but again, these things are all from the world, right? The Buddha allows this to sink in to say, nothing is yours, but we live here. We, with an illusion of that we've created within ourselves, to the attraction that we have to the five skandha, the five aggregates, we hold on to everything as me, myself, and I. But in reality, this place that we are, if you refer to the sutta in all tenses, what was the word that was mentioned? What was the sentence you saw? This mortal life, bhikkhus, is an intermediate state of consciousness. Something that really hit me when I first came into Buddhism, and of course was researching into rebirth and all of this. So Ian Stevenson and Professor Ian Stevenson and his research and all of these things. Something which profoundly hit me was these, and there are a lot of sort of videos also available online of when sort of professor would go with these children to these places, their houses, right? The children would give sort of directions to go, right? And these were specific documentaries in Sri Lanka, right? These children would be taken by the professor and the parents, and he would go and then say, you know, this is your name, this is your name, this is your name, you know, this is what we did, this is how I died, you know, all of these things. And what hit me was, you know, those people are not going to give their lands and properties and their legacies to this child, right? They have an interaction and they are, of course, bewildered, but then these other new parents take him and go back home, right? And that hit me, a very personal part of me, right? What did you actually love me? Did you love my body? Right? What was it that you loved? Right? And that really hit me in a very personal way, to say, what is it that we are actually attracted to? Right? Is it the way that you made me feel? Again, a collection of these chittas, chetasikas, all working in ways, you know. Now you find people who are speech therapists, they're teaching you how to speak. They're teaching you how to make another person fall in love with you. They teach you how to make your boss believe that you are a responsible person and you deserve that promotion. They teach you how to pin down that man or woman and make them ask the question. Right? They're training us. They know, they've figured out what parts of the mind should we scratch, right? How should we approach it? What should I say at what time? You know, we are like machines in a way, and when we know the programming of the way these machines work, it is quite scary also, right? It is what Facebook and all of these places, even with Cambridge Analytica, right, what they did. And of course, this technology was available in militaries, right? How they use, and this is to sort of combat sort of war like situations where they know exactly who we are, right? And this data, how do we operate, the things that we search, right? The things of who we are, they know exactly. And this is like something, am I a real person? It is as if I am so predictable, right? Just by you accessing my Google search history, you know exactly who I am. You know exactly who I am, right? And that just hits home so well. And this equality in beings is what the Buddha mentioned or is referring to in this practice. It is also one of the most difficult practices to engage with as a basic meditator, because it is something that we just do not want to understand. Our mind rebels and rebels and rebels, right, to not get this point, because it sort of dilutes the whole purpose that we do everything in our life, the purpose that you're killing yourself every day to live, right? Killing yourself every day to live. There's a lovely book, isn't it? Dying to Live, right? There's a lovely book called Dying to Live. The reason that you're doing all of this, to do this and then die and then rebirth again and then go through the whole process again. Our minds retaliate in this, to this regard. Oh, Veera has the book there, Dying to Live. Yes, right. So now, then it is non-reactive. To be non-reactive is a part of the equanimity practice, right? The non-reactive practice plays a pivotal role in awareness and mindfulness. How? It allows us to take a breather, to take a moment to comprehend what is happening and to understand that this is not about us. This is a collection of mixed feelings, you feeling bad, there's an ego behind it, all of these things you understand with a little tiny tad bit of awareness. And this non-reactivity allows you to do that, right? Also, being non-partial, right? When we are people who are non-partial in the Buddhist practice, your child, I will treat your child as my child if it comes to that position, right? If it comes to that position. Now, when you would feel really pious, especially on poor days, especially poor days is also like a power switch, right? You increase power and you decrease power, right? Vesak, people give, people donate, and all of these things. Towards the lesser pours, now like December pours, people don't really care too much about it, right? We have this switch for Vesak as well. Now, we go to temples, right? You're like Mother Teresa, right? You're like Mother Teresa, serving so much of food onto people's plates, right? Every child is your child. But Mother Teresa was not a good person. If you know about her history, she was not a good person. She was stealing from poor people in India and giving the money to the Vatican. But that is another story altogether. But you are like Mother Teresa, the mother to the world, right? But in that way, you see, that is an everyday Buddhist, meaning that should be an everyday Buddhist, where we have this boundless ability to give love, right? To give love, to tell yourself initially that you are spreading this love to all sectors, towards all directions, to all people, regardless of caste, clan, wealth, power, color, all of that. It does not matter. It does not matter. In instances, even the Buddha, with regards to color, the Buddha had no he did not perceive color to be of any sort of significance. The Buddha did not perceive sexuality to be of any significance, right? Meaning sexual orientation to be of any significance. What the Buddha said was, at the end of the day, with relation to sexual orientation, the Buddha said, it is lust. Lust is like fire. It burns. So if you want to get rid of it, you get rid of it. And that enables your path into nirvana. The Buddha did not go into, he was impartial in that way, that equanimity that he had, right? The near enemy of equanimity, however, people mistake too often. What is that? Indifference. When you have no empathy, you think this is equanimity. It is not. It is not. Equanimity arises with a knowledge of wisdom. If you are indifferent, like for example, a heartless person, right? This is not equanimity, child. This is not equanimity. You need therapy. You need therapy. This is not equanimity. Indifference is not equanimity, right? In a way that you don't feel anything. You don't feel anything, right? Also, sometimes foolish unknowing, sometimes being ignorant or defiant of something, right? You're not pushing it away. You do not care. You do not care. That is also not equanimity. Equanimity always arises with wisdom, right? What is a far enemy of equanimity? What hinders equanimity? Equanimity is hindered by greed, attachment. Equanimity is hindered by taking of sides, right? By taking of sides, especially when two friends are fighting, two good friends, you never take sides, right? You let it die down for that moment. You never take sides, right? Partiality hinders equanimity. Resentment hinders equanimity. And most importantly, reactivity, meaning reacting like a time bomb. You just have to mention a word out of line, done, you're finished, right? That. Now for you parents, you young parents with young kids or young adolescent kids, teenagers, right? This is a very important quality for you all to practice. Equanimity. It will do you wonders for your own mental health as well, right? Your own mental health as well, because children, they use your emotions, they feed on your emotions, and they are so good at it, right? It is very important for your sake to be able to be vigilant and aware. And the moment that you're reactive, when you react all the time to everything, you fail to see the bigger picture. You fail to see the depression in your child's eyes. You fail to see the insecurities that your child is going through. You fail to see all the difficult situations that your child might be going through, because you are used to this fast reactivity process, right? And that is something, with regards to the full Brahmavihara practice, that is something that we try to avoid, that we try not to do, right? So with regards to now limiting karma that we have discussed, now when we take karma, I'm going to finish fast, give me another 5 minutes. When we take karma belonging to the sensual sphere, right? Karma belonging to the sensual sphere is or will happen as long as your mind is within the sensual sphere. Meaning, now, for example, you go through no progression of mind towards the supramundane or the lokottara, whatever we choose to call it. You are still in that stagnant nature, fighting, dying to live basically every single day. You will find that you will die in the same situation that you are born into, right? In the same situation that you're born into. Why? The karmas itself, in a way, keeps you in that situation. But when you have supramundane thoughts beyond what we consider as what is unwholesome, when you have, now if this is your normal day-to-day bad thoughts or unwholesome thoughts, the good thoughts, dana, sila, bhavana, metta, mudita, karuna, upekka, anicca, dukkha, anatma, dhamma contemplations, impermanent, suffering, non-self, all of these things, when you do, it is far beyond this, right? So even the effects of nature upon this body changes. Now, you might, Sri Lankans would know, it is said that when you are going through, or when you have terrible bad luck, right, through karmic or through the astrology starts or whatnot, people often tend to ordain their children, right, just to get away from the bad luck, right? Now this, it also works. Why? Because of the practice. But if you're, of course, you get ordained and you are sitting in a temple eating at night and doing all the things, all the wrong things that goes against your practice, it's not going to have any effect, right? But if you are practicing good in your mind, metta, mudita, karuna, upekka, and all of these things, that is your protection. That is your protection, right? And it also supports you to progress and develop, to come out of the sad states that you might have been born into, right? That you might have been born into. For example, a person from a, let's say, a very off village, a rural village, looks at the TV, sees people in high positions, and imagines, let me become someone like that. Isn't that the thought that pulls you out of that village and brings you into a city or into a job or a different country or something like that, right? Now, most of the people that we have in the UK, right, you find that most of these people have come from very rural parts of the country, right? Rural villages. All of these people have been picked up from some sort of inspiration that they had, some sort of hope that they were given, that they come out of that position. In the same way, when you practice this, your mind is going to excel. Your mind is going to excel and excel into, now you have everything. You have money, you have power, you have friends, you have all the clout and all of these things. And now you come to a position, now I have everything. Now, then also you progress into thinking, now I need to my spiritual development. Anicca, dukkha, anatma, all of these things come, where you prepare yourself for the attainment of nibbana, or at least the next life, right? At least the next life. Now, this is something that we have to do, right? Now, chamare, has mentioned, when I mentioned about mudita, she has put on the chat, Chamari has suggested the word counting blessings. Chamari, yes, in a way, but not completely. Counting blessings in mudita, you rather know than pick. Do you understand? Right? If you're picking, okay, I'm good because of this, I'm good because of this, I'm good because of this, success is good because of this, then there is something wrong in a way. But yes, initially, yes. But when you come to mudita, you know. You don't have to pursue and push yourself. You know you are blessed. Right? You are blessed. Not in an egoistic way, not in any sort of way that pulls the mind down, but in a way that you know that you can you are a person who is blessed. So counting blessings, yes and no. That word, yes and no. Right? So it is a situation where you absolutely know. Right? Now that is a sutta for today. Remember, with regards to the Brahmavihara practice, in your mind, tell yourself, I will be compassionate boundlessly. I will have loving kindness boundlessly. You might not, but tell yourself, visualize yourself being that person, that position, and you find yourself in becoming that same person, right? That same person. Now, with regards to this boundless practice, be able to radiate loving kindness in all directions without any sort of different. If you are dividing a person, if you're saying that person is lower than me, it is wrong. It is wrong. If you're telling that you are more beautiful than another person, that is wrong as well. Right? These are misconceptions or illusions that you have created because of your conditioning. Some people who are not at all attractive think they're very attractive also. That is also a misconception. Right? Just as that person who is not attractive is deluded, the person who thinks one is too attractive is also deluded. Right? This is you have received these positions because of wholesome states of mind, and you're going to lose these positions because of unwholesome states of mind created through the clinging that you have to these blessings that you have in your life, right? Through the blessings. So break those down. Get rid of them. If it arises, no question about it, out the door. Right? Do not harbor thoughts like that. Always bring in the Dhamma, anicca dukkha anatma. Think for yourself. What do you really have? What is truly yours? The clothes that you're currently wearing is also made in China or Sri Lanka or some poor country in Asia. Right? If those people were not there, if the people who are not making the material are not there, you will not even have clothes on your backs. Right? In that way, each and every word that you know is something that you picked up from another person, your mother, your father, your teachers, the newspapers, all of this, all your knowledge is borrowed. That is the word to use. It is borrowed. You have to give back. How do you give back? Give the Dhamma to the people, right? Help your relatives, help your children, right? In that, find strength. The Buddha has said, when it comes to repaying the debt that you owe to your parents, the only way is to increase their faith, their belief in the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. Why? Because that's the only thing that will save or bring them out from samsara. Right? It is such a powerful tool. Do not be proud of the handbags that you have. Right? It might be Fendi, Chanel, whatever it might be. It might be Hermes. It's basically a rind of a dead animal. Right? No. It is not. Do not be proud of the brands of clothes that you own or how big your house is. It is all going to go to waste. You see all these depressing castles in the UK, right? All these depressing castles in the UK, right? all of their, what is there? No, it's a B&B, Airbnb. It's an Airbnb for £90 a night. What is this? If I'm sure the ghosts are haunting those places, right? Even in colonial houses in Sri Lanka, in Nuwara can be haunted, right? Haunted. And some temples also in Sri Lanka, around the country, no one can stay there except a monk. No one else can stay there, haunted, right? Why? All this liking. What is this festering like? You move on from this, you go to a better place. If you don't attain nirvana, do not cling on to everything. Be proud of the Dhamma and nothing else. Be proud of the Dhamma. You might be a doctor and an engineer. Remember, there are 18-year-old YouTube stars at the moment earning more than you have ever earned in your whole entire lifetime, right? So what is pride? Let go. Have pride in the Dhamma that you practice, the good values that you have, and the good things that you can teach your children, your family, and give back to society and the community. That is what truly matters. That is what you carry forth in your practice. I don't think there are much. Does anyone have any questions regarding the session today? All right. So, Damsi, do you have a question? No. Okay. So, all right. So, thank you very much for tuning in. I will update the rest of the sutras tomorrow. So you will have access to all of them. And also Venerable Khanda's, Bhikkhuni Khanda's talk is on the 20th from 1 o'clock to 2:30. We put it early in British Standard Time so that people from other parts of the world can also join in. So Washington, DC time, it is going to be at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? And for Sri Lankan, so it's going to be at 5:30 in the afternoon or the evening. So make sure, please send it out to friends and family, and get people to come in. I think it will be a very beautiful, interesting talk. Also to have her life experiences. She's lived in different monasteries around, and also she's such a darling, actually. She's such a darling, and not egoistic, and very down to earth. She's a very good nun, and she's doing a very good cause, establishing the first ever, under Acham Brahmavanso's guidance. She's trying to establish the first nunnery, or the female monastery in the UK, which is, I think, an incredible endeavor, which will absolutely help any of you who's there as well, who is able to access those. So please do spread the word, spread the word and get your family and friends to come in as well. Lovely having this session for you. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed delivering it. So I will update the sutras tomorrow. Take care. Good night. Have a good rest of the day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Take care. Goodbye.